For some time, a rallying call of the conservative movement has been to end the medical mutilation that is happening in our country. I want to rewind back to 2018 or 2019. The trans movement looked ascendant in this country. It looked as if it was the most popular thing happening. There was no way that we could stop it. That drag queen story hour was going to go down with prayer in public places. That it is the new religious ceremony was dudes in dresses around our children. There was no stopping the trans movement. In fact, if you dare spoke out against the trans mafia, they would come to your home, they would call you names, and you are a hater and you are a bigot. It started with bathrooms, and then it went to public schools, and then drag queen story hour. And then we started to see these stories of people that actually, under the age of 18, went through medical butchery, otherwise known as gender transition. All of this was a concerted and focused attempt to undermine the nuclear family. Now, Karl Marx wrote extensively in his writings that the family was a capitalist institution, that the family was a form of ownership, that in the ideal Marxist society, there would be no parents over children. It would all be communal, that no woman would belong to one another. The trans movement at its core took advantage of the generosity and the benevolence. The trans movement took advantage of the good-heartedness of America. And things started to change. They started to change when we saw Thomas win the national championship and steal the national championship from Riley Gaines. Things started to change when we started to see 14, 15, and 16-year-olds have to undergo surgery and have irreversible damage to them. And yet the forces against us seemed insurmountable. All of corporate America, from Target to the major institutions of our country, from the White House, which changed Easter, to the Transgender Day of Awareness, we felt as if that this was an inevitability. But many of you fought back, and we certainly did at Turning Point USA, and we did here on the Charlie Kirk Show. We started to consolidate the top leaders, thinkers, authors together. From Dr. Miriam Grossman to Abigail Schreier, the top thought leaders that understood what was actually happening to our children, and we went down to base fundamental truths. There was a moment where we could not talk about this on social media. Still to this day, it is hard to talk about this topic on YouTube. YouTube will get you, they'll issue a strike, they could ban you, they could demonetize you. And these tens of thousands of poor kids became annuities for Big Pharma. All across the country, kids were being put into the butcher assembly line to have their breasts chopped off, to undergo unspeakable medieval butchery by people who call themselves doctors, to be administered Lupron or testosterone replacement therapy. And we started to fight back. We had psychopathic doctors making viral TikTok videos bragging about, I'm not even going to say this on air, but taking people's breasts off. This is child abuse. And we've said for a while it must come to an end. The Democrat Party embraces this degenerate, dudes in thongs dancing in front of your 8-year-old. That is a core religious pillar of the modern Democrat Party. And it seemed as if we had no way to fight back on a federal level. There were some states that started to fight back until President Donald Trump. Until President Donald Trump won the election, was sworn in just 9 days ago, what we saw last evening was without a doubt one of the most inspiring triumphs of the family movement in modern history. President Donald Trump signed a spectacular and almost too good to be true, wide-ranging, focused executive order against the medieval chemical castration and butchery of our children. And don't take my word for it. Matt Walsh, who's a very, very tough grader, said, quote, read through the entire executive order on child mutilation. Spectacular stuff. I couldn't have written it any better. Trump is literally doing everything he can do in his position to put a stop to this barbarism. Now it's up to Congress to finish the job. Now remember, this went in steps. First, they said that you must accept it, and then you must tolerate it, and you must accept it. Then you must celebrate the trans agenda. Then you must participate in the trans agenda, ever slowly moving the Overton window, where that which was unthinkable and unspeakable became mainstream. But we, the parents of America, the moms and dads who have children of this country, rose up in record numbers and voted for Donald Trump. And President Trump did not just deliver last evening. He sent a clarion call message to every weak-knee, wobbly Republican politician across the country that we will end child mutilation in this country. These are kids that have mental issues, that have a brain problem, not a body problem, and yet they go after surgery for 13-year-olds in these child clinics across the country, while they don't treat the underlying bipolar schizophrenia, generalized anxiety disorder, depression, and so on and so forth. They go after butchering the body, and it goes towards a more fundamental executive order that President Trump signed early on, that God created male and female. There is not a third category. If you are a man, surgery will not make you a woman. If you are a woman, surgery will not make you a man. Those chromosomes do not change. Fundamental natural truth does not change under the knife. It does not change with a scalpel. We must have the humility to know that there is a God who created us and we are not him. This was all an attempt to disrupt, to undermine what is the backbone of a free society, which is a strong nuclear family. Marxists try to do three things simultaneously: get rid of private property, ruin people's attachment to God and the divine, and then disrupt the nuclear family. President Donald Trump stood up against the trans mafia. President Donald Trump stood up against some of the most powerful pharmaceutical companies that are making billions off of your kids and their peers as annuities. And President Donald Trump says, I don't care. As president, we are going to put an end to this medieval witchcraft. We are going to sunset this dark and ugly chapter in American history. And President Donald Trump delivers on yet another core campaign promise. And he's protecting our children up against all the other special interests in a way that no other Republican politician would dream of doing. And now you can say that finally this trans cartel is on defense and we stood up against the bully and punched back twice as hard.